Hi, this is Alex. You might know my mom Heather from Shine.fm. This is the Shine.fm Momcast. Here's my mom.
Thanks so much for tuning in to the Momcast. I am here again talking to a mom. That's what we do here on the Momcast. Amanda Hildabrand is my guest today. Amanda, you and I go way back.
We do. I was trying to think about that. I think it was before I had kids.
Mm-hmm, me too.
I think it was like late 90s.
It was like 97, 98.
Mm-hmm. And we've both done radio in various different places, kind of under the same umbrella and then not under the same umbrella.
That's right.
And somehow our paths keep crossing, which is great.
They do. It is good. But I think you're a little bit younger than me, but we're kind of in the same stage of life because you have a teenager that's the same age as my daughter.
Yes.
And then you have some littles.
Yes.
You got littles, and I
do.
don't have littles anymore. So tell everybody about yourself.
I've been doing radio for 20 years, almost 20 years. That's all I've done as an adult. And once it's either it sucks you in or it spits you out. Like there's no in between.
Right.
So I got sucked in and have been a radio person longer than I've been a mom, which is kind of weird because it feels like mom is primary job, you know? And so I have a 16-year-old son, I have a 14-year-old daughter, and I have two other sons, the two littles, kind of phase 2 or round 2. Alex is 9 and Drew is 7. So yeah, it's fun to still have someone to go see Santa with, because the teenagers just don't do that anymore.
No, clearly. No, exactly.
Started the family really young, had my first when I was 22, which is just insane, but it's worked. And so we went to put our daughter on the bus for kindergarten, and I was like, is this it? Like, so then that's where round 2 came in for the
like,
little guys.
No, we can't be done.
Right, too young for this. And so it's fun for me to go to school parties and stuff, and people think that my 9-year-old's my oldest.
Oh.
I'm like, oh no, I have 2 teenagers. Like, this is not my first go around. If you want to bring all the treats and all of that, I'm fine because I've done that part already. Yeah. So,
And I'm that mom too, though, and that's what we're going to talk about is how long. And you and I although I think you've done better at this from just what we've talked about, but managing those expectations of us as moms. I remember when I was young in our parenting and young in our marriage, and I was staying home for the most part with our kids, we would have life group in our house. And I remember that afternoon before life group.
You would sweat while vacuuming because it was so stressful.
Right, and then you're like trying to make sure that, and so making sure that my house in that period of time was like a clear reflection of the fact that I was home. And I wasn't doing anything but cleaning my house all day, which was clearly not the truth.
But don't you think, like, if people know that you're home, your house should really be messier?
You think so?
I mean, in our brains, we think, no, it should be clean and tidy. But if you really are home with your kids and doing great things with your kids, the crafts and the cooking and the teaching them how to do stuff, your house really should be messier.
I'll adhere to that. I wish you would have told me that, 10 years ago.
Sorry. Well, I've never been home with my kids. I think that's part of where my managing expectations comes from is I carry health insurance for our family, and that's been a big reason why I've worked. The money is an important thing too. Right. But like when my firstborn was 6 weeks old, I was back at work, and that was really it was a good thing. I worked early mornings because if I had to drop him off for daycare at that age, I would have never done it. Like I'd still be sitting in the parking lot now. Like he's 16, but I would have had it was hard, but it was just something that we've always done. And I think that was kind of where it all starts with you can't be perfect and you can't do it all. And your house isn't always going to be clean. And, I have a spouse that also lives in the house. And so if there was that stuff that like was very important for both of us to worry about, then he could also handle it. Like that sounds horrible. No. But like, and I think he too had to kind of not break me a little bit, but just like, it'll get done when it gets done. And if it doesn't get done, it doesn't get done. Like, stop stressing out about this stuff. And, I remember having the same, like, small group, people coming over, and, like, it was traumatic just getting ready for people to come over. And it was silly and ridiculous. Right. Or like his grandmother was super, super neat and clean. And I was always so worried about impressing her. Well, she has passed on. Right. And that doesn't matter anymore. It does not matter. Right.
Right.
Like, so I think another thing too, just about being a working mom, is that my kids have had to learn how to do a lot of things for themselves. And I don't think that's entirely a bad thing.
No, I don't think so either.
I think we live kind of in a time where moms do everything for their kids. Everything.
Right.
Like my son plays high school sports, and there are teammates where the mom has pressed the uniform and cleaned the uniform. And I'll do that when I have time just to try and help out.
Yeah.
But like, if you need it washed and I don't have time to do it, you get to do it.
Right.
You are capable.
You get to do it. That's right.
You need to keep all the pieces in place. I'm not going to be responsible for taking care of that stuff because I simply just cannot. So I don't have the time.
When do you think that switch kind of was made? Because you talk about the fact that you were that young mom who, and I think it's amazing that your husband was like, it'll get done. And if it does, because that was not necessarily the case in our house. Although I will tell you, my husband was very much like, okay, this is where we're at right now. Like, this is the season we're in. And he knew I wasn't always a real strong housekeeper anyways. So just is not in the genes. And he began to adapt to the crazy, because we had 3 kids in 3 years. So we did have a lot going on in that short period of time. But what I did was I was like, hey, I'm going to have you like help me with this to the kids.
Yes.
Like, hey, we're going to get rags out and we're going to use vinegar water and we're going to clean the floors today. And you're going to put your feet on the rug,
Right.
And so the way that I've kind of figured out how to do that is including them in it. But when did that switch for you? Like, can you think about a time when you were like, wait a minute, I don't want to do this anymore?
I think it might have happened before this, but I think for sure I started doing morning radio about 6 years ago. And so that meant I was not home at all in the morning to get people off to school. I would try and set stuff out the night before. But even then, like, when you get up as early as morning radio people do, like, you are dead tired by the end of the night. And sometimes it would be like, I just don't have time to deal with the backpacks, or I can't. And I think that was a big turning point, because we had all 4 at that point.
Right.
And my littlest was very little. And, I think that was just the, you know what, I just got to be okay with whatever they wear to school. If they get hot lunch at school every day and I don't pack them a lunch, they're going to be fine.
Right.
And if it is like the kid needs something specific for school or whatever, it's probably going to happen last minute, and it's just, and we somehow managed. Like, the kids were somehow fine.
Right. Yeah, right. It didn't all crumble.
Didn't fall apart.
Right.
And I think, too, just having the 2 rounds of kids, like with the first 2, it was like I wanted to be super classroom mom, and I'll help and I'll do all the things. But then when I had the second 2, because we had 2 like middle school and then 2 early elementary school, like I literally could not be there for everybody. And so I had to, I want to participate in the party, but I'll bring the plates. Like, I had to realize, like, that's just as important as the peacock made out of fruit,
That's right. Exactly. Yeah.
They need something to put that food on. And I needed something that, like, you can take this to school with you, even if I can't be there, because class parties sometimes are during the morning show. Sorry, I can't make it this time, but I'll certainly try and make it next time. And dad can come sometimes too. Or grandma. Kids love when grandma can come, even more than when mom can come. So. Right.
Do you think that, like, what are some of the things that you have your kids do now that you're like, oh, hallelujah, they're doing that? Like, I know for us, like, laundry, that was such a pain for me. And I think we started about 2 years ago with ours. And I mean, it was like a struggle to get them to bring their clothes downstairs. It was a struggle to get them to take care of them. And now I'm like, oh, you don't have clean underwear? Oh, guess you didn't do your laundry, did you? You know, I do a good job of reminding them, like, oh, hey, by the way, washer's open.
And got I've time noticed you've been wearing the same sweatshirt 4 days in a row.
But what are some of the things that you have found to be really successful for your family that you said, you know what, the kids can do this? And even some of your youngers that you're like, because I know too, like, first grade, I was making my own lunch. Yeah. Because my mom worked.
Right.
And so guess what? I needed to take a lunch, and so I made a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So what are some of those things?
Laundry for the big 2.
Yeah.
I still, for some reason, feel like I can manage it for the little guys. Like, it's not, they share a bedroom, and they share clothes, and they are pretty much the same size. And so, like, it's, people ask me all the time, are they twins? And so, like, I don't mind just doing their laundry when I'm doing mine. That doesn't bother me. But the bigs, I mean, it's completely them. Like, I don't even, like, there will be times where I'll make comments like, okay, I can smell that shirt. Like, that needs to go in the wash, you know?
Right.
And, you know, if I do have time, I'll offer, like, hey, I can put a load of your stuff in, you know?
Right.
I see that as a gift I can
Right.
give them.
Yeah, exactly.
They do take care of, like, if you need something to eat, you can have cereal. You know, if it is just too crazy and too busy, you can manage that on your own. And we have tried to teach the kids, especially the little guys, ask first. Otherwise, it would be like constant in the cupboards. I'm eating only chips. I'm eating only crackers.
Right.
You know, you try to balance it out a little bit more. And the little guys, they have to their own snow clothes for school. Like, since we live in Michigan, and you need to make sure you have your tennis shoes, and I will leave them notes, like, make sure you have your snow gear. But, like, sorry, buddy, if you made it to school and you didn't have your gloves for recess, that tomorrow you'll remember. You know, you feel kind of horrible being like, oh, my kid's the one on the playground who's not warm enough. But when you were told, and you could have done it the night before when I was at home with you, you know, that's just a learning opportunity. So,
but you do feel like, I mean, and I have actually worked the playground, and you do, like, look at those kids and go, where's your mother?
Right.
But then I have a kid who forgets his stuff all the time, even though I'm like, hey, did you get that poster that you needed for that? Did you get your shoes? I mean, there was a period of time with our middle one where I made a list, like printed off a list and put it on the wall. And I said, you have to check that every single morning before you leave, because he would just forget stuff.
Well, and I think that's a strategy he's going to need to know as he becomes an adult. You know, like, maybe organization is not your best thing, but the faster we know that, and like, okay, checklists are going to be a thing for you, you know, when you get older.
You're need to write a note.
I think that's a good skill, because then otherwise, if we do it all for them all the time, we send them off into the real world and we don't realize, oh, you need checklists, or you need 2 alarms in the morning, or you know, and that's my big kids, they get themselves off to school pretty much by themselves, you know, because their bus comes really, really early. And, you know, a lot of times it's my daughter waking my son up like, dude, we got to go to school. But, you know, they know that they get in trouble if they don't make it on time. So,
yeah. One thing that I wanted to touch on, and I have experienced this, was you know, you were talking about, I'm not that mom that makes the peacock at the school party. I think there is a lot. I struggled with that in the early years of our kids, and those grade school years. I actually really didn't enjoy the parties.
Oh my gosh.
Because I felt inadequate. I felt like, and so there came a point for me, probably when Atticus, who's the youngest, was like in 3rd or 4th grade. So we were actually almost done with that, where I was like, you know what? I don't want to feel this way anymore. Like, I am gifted. Like, God has given me a lot of gifts. It is not Pinterest cupcakes.
No.
It is not games for your Valentine's Day party. So like you, I go to the grocery store and buy cupcakes.
Yes.
I go to the grocery store and buy, but I tell people, like, when they're like, oh, could you do that? I'm like, no, actually I can't. And I don't feel guilty about it anymore, because there was periods of time where I tried to do it and I was like, I hate this.
Yes.
I hate every single second of this. And it was like, I'd rather go and either not be in charge of anything and be there for my kid, because that's really what I wanted to do, because my kid wanted me there.
Yes.
Or like you said, I brought the plates, which is just as important. But how did you come to that place where you were like, okay, and in a lot of ways, I felt the same way. I talk on the radio every day.
Right.
Like, I encourage thousands of people every day. God has gifted me. Why do I feel guilty about not being the Pinterest mom? Like, how did that happen for you?
Or even feeling guilty for not, I always say, like, I felt like, or I still kind of do, fish out of water there, you know, like, this is not my element. These are not my people. Like, I love my child and I'm so happy to be here with them. But even field trips, that, I mean, I feel like an anxiousness a little bit about those, because it's just not my element.
Right.
But you have to keep in mind, those moms would not feel at all comfortable doing what we do for a living. Right. You know, where we can just sit behind a mic and just blah, 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 blah. And, you know, that is, like you said, it's a gift that we have. We don't have that other thing. Right. I think what has honestly helped is we've been in the same school district a long time. And so, like, the teachers that my littles have, we've had before with the bigs. Oh, okay. And so these teachers know, like, oh, she works and she does the best that she can. And a lot of them are listeners. And so they're like, we see that she's got this thing going and this is not her thing. Right. And also, I think the realizing that this is not the parties and that's not my gift or my strong suit, but some other moms it really is, and they love doing it.
Right.
So let them have the opportunity to do it. Like
Right.
there's one in my son's class where she, will single-handedly take the party on and like, here's the games, and it's very organized and the kids love it. Like they're just over the moon with her.
Right.
And that's her thing.
Right.
And she's good at it and she really enjoys it. And
Right.
I always kind of just tell myself, like, don't take that away from her. That's the thing that she likes. It's
Right.
okay that you don't. Like, just don't take
Right,
it away.
right.
So.
And I try to thank those moms
For sure.
because I see, like you did, because with Atticus in that last year of elementary school, I just went and didn't do anything at the parties because I was like, oh no, I am not. No, I'm done. This is the third. I'm going to go and enjoy, because I made a commitment to myself when we knew that Atticus was going to be our last, that I would enjoy every stage with him. And I thought, I'm not going to let feeling like I have to bring something, or then it would all be filled up and I would be like, oh, okay, I guess I don't have to do anything. But like, I would then talk to that mom and be like, you know what, you did a fabulous job.
And I really appreciate you doing it for my kid.
Yeah, right, exactly. Because I do think that that we know, and it's not our gift, how much time and effort that took.
Yeah.
But they love it. But it's nice still to feel like we can appreciate, because it's like people tell me all the time, oh, thanks for what you said, blah, 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 on the radio, or thanks for sharing that. That's them encouraging me. I want to be encouraging to that mom that I don't have her gifting, but man, my kid had a great party because she does, know. So what would you say to a mom who's maybe younger than us or has kids that are younger and they're feeling like, I just can't do it all. Like I can't keep it together, and I don't know how to move from feeling like this to what you and I are talking about today?
I feel like you're right. When you say you can't do it all, you can't. You weren't built to do it all. If you think about, especially if you're a working mom, it's not just I go to work and I sit at my desk. You have expectations from your boss. And then if you take those expectations and then you have them at home and you feel like I'm just expected to have a meal on the table every night, and I'm expected to, read my kids a 30-minute bedtime story every night, and you can't do all of that. You were not wired to do all of it. I think that's an important thing. Like if you can really absorb that and believe that, I think that can be very, very powerful. And I think too, you are allowed to tell people no, including your children. Like I think that's something that and I still struggle with it, where it's like, I need a poster board and I need this and I need this, and can you get me this today, and can I go to this friend's house? You have to drive me there. I want to be able to say yes to all of the things, but I think it's important too for your kids to learn that Mom's human. She has her limitations, and sometimes she needs downtime. And I understand you want to go out on Friday and go to a movie and go do all this stuff.
Right.
Mom's worked really hard all week, and Mom just can't.
Right.
And we'll make it up another time, or we'll make an effort to do it. But I think just that being okay telling yourself you can't do it all, and then also teaching your kids, like, I know maybe your dad makes your grandmother seem like she was Wonder Woman and she did do it all, but we live in a different day and age, and there's a lot of demands on all of our time. And just like I show you grace when you can't manage everything, I would expect you to show me some grace as well. So.
And I think for me, what's been hard that I'm really working on is allowing my kids to be disappointed in that. Like, I do not like my kids to be disappointed in me or in a situation. You know what I mean? They can be disappointed in other stuff, and I don't like that either. But like, I think about the times in my life when things haven't quite worked out the way that I wanted them to, and those are really growing periods for and I don't want to take that away from my kids, because God may use that in a way that molds them and shapes them into who he wants them to be. But I don't want my kids to be disappointed, but they need to be. Yeah. And like you said, we can't do it all. And it's a very healthy thing to show your kids you can't do it all, because I don't want my perfectionism and my expectation level of myself to bleed onto them, and then they struggle with what I struggle with. Want to show them that it's okay that you can't do it all, or that you don't want to do it all.
And like, what's more important, that your dishes are done, or that you were able to just sit with your kid for a minute and just talk about the day?
Right.
And I think if we're able to show up for the big stuff, the things that really, really matter to our kids, and the things that are like super important as far as their development goes, they're not going to remember that other stuff.
Right.
They aren't.
Right.
Like, I don't remember that from my mom, but I remember the things she did show up for, and that mattered. So
Right. Yeah. And I do think we look more at giving our kids things rather than being with our kids at times. Like, I think in the stage that we're in, and you might struggle with this as well because we're in the similar stages, actually having dinner all together.
Oh, yeah.
Because you've got multiple kids doing multiple sports or different things, to actually have a meal together. That's what I want my kids to remember, is us sitting around talking about our day, laughing at stuff. I want them to see that we were a family unit.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen all the time. It did when they were younger, but it doesn't now. But I want them to think about us having those conversations at the dinner table. But that's not easy to do with the stage that we're in. So
I think another thing too, just with the stage we're in with having teenagers and having to drive them everywhere, like they're all of our kids are super sporty, right?
Yep.
And so, or they have to be at play practice or band or whatever,
right?
Just valuing that time in the car, like that's something that I get annoyed, like, oh, I'm just driving all the time. But when else do I get to have my teenage son captive audience? And he might be looking at his phone, looking at a new movie trailer, but like I can ask, like, oh, what's that movie? Do you want to go see that?
Right.
You know, and that's time that as soon as he gets his license, I'm not going to have that again.
Right.
You know, and so just trying to, like, every season,
try
to embrace it for the good that it can be instead of just the bad, because there's bad
the
too.
tough stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because we moved into an area where we're really close to the schools now, and the kids can walk.
Oh, okay.
And because where we lived before, I would have to drive them like 15 minutes or 10 minutes to school. And my husband was like, no, they need to walk. And I finally said to him, you know, I want to go get them, because there are times, especially when they're alone in the car, like when I don't have all three of them, where that may be the only time that they share something with me, not in front of the other two.
Right.
And that is definitely true for my older two. My youngest will pull me aside and be like, hey, can we talk about something?
Oh, that's awesome.
But the older two at this point are like, you never know. Like you said, there's days in the car where there's nothing. And maybe even a little angst at me for something. Who knows?
Because you disappointed them.
Because I probably disappointed them. That's right. But there are days where I get stuff that I would have not gotten.
Right.
Had I literally not gotten in the car for 5 minutes, because there was no one else around. We weren't looking at each other. It was, you know, side eye. You're not making eye contact with each other.
Side by side.
Right,
combo.
you know, and they shared some stuff with me that I was like very grateful for.
Yeah.
And so as a parent, to be thankful for those normal things is that's a really good point.
Because they're facing a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I just hope that they always just feel safe. You can talk to me. Like, you can't do anything that I hadn't done, you know, when I was a teenager. I'm not going to reveal to you, you know, some of that stuff, but like nothing would surprise me.
Right,
and, I think that too, just the perfection of managing, our kids aren't going to be perfect.
Right.
You know, and we have to be able to, like, I mean, you love them no matter what, and just really believe in them, and we'll get through it.
Yeah.
You always get through it.
Always get through it, yeah. Well, thanks so much for joining me on the Momcast today.